and we have to sort of pick it up because there is someone after me. So the good thing is the handout I've given you is it's pretty clear. It has most everything you need to know. Um, I think the biggest thing I want you to take away from this is you can do it. Um, don't be intimidated to homeschool your kids. Um, you can do it. There are resources out there to help you. Uh, no one has your child's best interest in mind more than you do. So you can do this. I want to tell you a little bit about my journey. I'm a public school graduate. My husband went to a Christian school. We had no intentions of homeschooling when we started our family. We kind of fell into it. Our oldest has a late birthday. He was born in July, and he went to a local church preschool and kindergarten. It was the only half-day kindergarten around still, and I didn't think, little kids needed to be sitting all day long in a school, in a classroom, and so we chose that. But even when he was finished with that, he wasn't reading those little word cards that they were sending home that he was supposed to be reading. He would rather be climbing trees and finding bugs. And I begged them to hold him back, and they wouldn't. Even though it was a church school, they said, oh, he's so well behaved, and he's such a good kid, and he shares, and he does all of these things. I said, but he's not ready. He's not ready to learn. He's not interested. And they said, no, we can't do that. So my husband went to our local elementary school, like kindergarten, first grade roundup, they called it. And this was before cap sizes on classes. And he asked the principal, well, how big are your classes? And she said, well, 21, 22 to start the year, but by the end of the year, with the migrant population, we live in a rural area, probably 27, 28. Well, we knew, my husband and I had both been teachers, we knew boy, late birthday, not interested in learning, was going to fall through the cracks. He was going to be put in a low reading group, labeled, and it was just going to be a domino effect. So we knew some people in our church that were homeschooling, and we just started to ask them questions. We really went into it thinking, we're just going to get him through this, right? We're going to get him to that place where he's learning and he's ready. Well, then I started having our kids, our family. We started way later. I was almost 34 when I had my oldest, and he's 25 now. So we had 3 in just under 4 years. We had them quick, they're close together, but it was an awesome thing for us. Our kids are all close as people, friends. They are really each other's best friends. Right now, my kids are all out on my youngest boat, having a great time. Pretty much every weekend they go out fishing or just cruising, and it's always they get the first 3 seats in the boat, okay? My oldest, my daughter is in the middle, and then my youngest is a boy as well. So that's how we started homeschooling. I remember the first year schooling, and my youngest was struggling, but my teacher mentality wouldn't let me slow down. We had to stay on a pace, stay on a schedule, and I was so worried that he wasn't doing everything that scope and sequence book said he should be doing. And he was literally falling off the chair crying, I can't do this. I'm pulling my hair out, and it was not working. So it took a wise, mature homeschooler to tell me the things that Jen said to you, which I would completely agree with. Every kid is different, every parent is different, every home is different. You have to figure out what works for all of you. And some kids really are late bloomers. Back to the oldest, he continued to struggle with reading. for a long time. Probably there's some visual issues there that we didn't catch, but he's such a type A person. As he got older, if it wasn't on his list, he put it on his list. He was the one to get it done, and it was going to be done perfect. So that little boy that wasn't interested in learning became very kind of detailed and organized, and I wouldn't say perfectionist, but very type A. And but he was still struggling to really kind of keep all of the balls rolling in 8th grade, so we held him back in the 8th grade. It wasn't such a big deal. We had been homeschooling from the beginning, and after that second year of 8th grade, he took off like a rocket. The summer after his 9th grade year, he started dual enrollment and loved it and did well. Graduated with 36 hours, which is over half of his AA done. We were never going for an AA. I know a lot of homeschool parents do that today, but our goal was just free college, use dual enrollment to add to our transcript. You know, instead of me teaching high school English, he took dual enrollment, and that counted as his high school English. And he got high school credit and college credit for it. My daughter was more like her daughter. She's my strong-willed, competitive, driven. If you say the sky is blue, she's going to say it is black. I mean, she is going to fight you at every turn. Well, she had been, and she's a September birthday, so she was one of those kids that had to wait to start school, you know, technically, and so she was chomping at the bit, and she did everything that the oldest did. They're about 26 months apart. So for the most part, I kind of kept them together until the beginning of really probably the second year of my oldest in high school, when he was a sophomore. So she was the one who, I want to go to school. I don't like being at home. I want to go back. I want to go to school. She had never even been to preschool. And I got so tired of butting heads with her that I found a class like they offer here at the Heat, and she took a science class. She took off. She used that competitive drive in her to say, Susie got an 85, I'm getting an 87. Johnny got a 92, I'm getting a 95. I mean, it worked for her. She needed that, and I didn't realize. It took me a long time, whereas my oldest, once he got in a groove and got focused, it was more important to him that the work was done well, and that he wanted to make me happy. But for her, she didn't care about making me happy. She had to have a good time. She wanted to enjoy it. She wanted to be with her friends. And she used that competitive drive, which took her to play volleyball in college, but she had that drive to compete even in the classroom. And so I'm so thankful that we finally saw that, because that's what she needed. My youngest, introvert, super quiet. You send him to his room for discipline and he would be gone for 3 or 4 hours building some monstrous Lego, you know, and I would forget he was in there. My oldest would be crying from the door, Mom, can I please come out? Can I please come out? He hated isolation, hated it. Whereas my youngest would just disappear. And we didn't realize for a long time what was going on with his eyes. So he too struggled to read, late birthday, May. And it wasn't until he was about 5th grade that our evaluator actually said, I think something's going on with Simon. He's a smart kid, but his test scores are actually going down instead of up. And she recommended a behavioral optometrist to us, which is a little beyond a regular optometrist. They can discern how the brain is working with the eyes, how the eyes are taking in that information, and how the brain is processing it. And there's a couple in Tampa. We used Walesby Vision Center, And that was exactly what it was. That poor kid, and my background is in special ed. I taught students with learning disabilities in the school system. And I would take him to these different websites and say, Simon, when you look at something, does it look like this, like dots scattered on the page? Or does it look like this, like waves? Or this, is it faded? You know, they give you these, you can look at samples. He would go, no. Well, when we had him tested and the optometrist put the lenses up to our eyes, we were shocked. He was seeing in waves and like a fade. He has what they call convergence insufficiency. So when we read, our eyes automatically come together, relax, come together, relax, come together, relax. And we do it automatically. And he didn't have a lazy eye, but his eyes were relaxing too quickly. So he would get the end of one word and the beginning of another, total random words. So we went through a year of vision therapy, made a huge difference. But we could tell even into high school, we made him take, high school English, Algebra 1, geometry. He never made it to Algebra 2. But we knew he was going to do something hands-on. This kid probably made $10,000, no exaggeration, over his 4 years of high school, buying and selling four-wheelers, land, water vehicles, dirt bikes, fixing them, flipping them, and selling them on Craigslist and that sort of thing. He just has a knack for where things go and how they fit together. So between his junior and senior year, because he was beginning to express an interest in going to college, and we knew he would need modifications, which I had been doing all through high school, we had him tested. I'm kind of glad we waited that late because he had no labels and he's perfectly self-confident. There's nothing he doesn't think he can't do. On the other hand, I have to tell you, I wish we had done it sooner so that we could have gone to somewhere like Linda Mood Bell on Davis Island that specializes, it's a school, like a tutoring center, and they'll work with students and adults with learning disabilities in remediating those. So I kind of wish we had done it sooner, but it's all worked out great. So in high school, we sent him more of a technical route, where the other two we did college prep with them. We had a friend who owns Valrico Auto Repair, and he allowed my son to do an apprenticeship there. And it counted for like 3 or 4 of his high school classes. And he started out picking up, just greasy nuts and bolts and worked up to harder things. And then we found out about Caterpillar, the big bulldozer company, has a program called Think Big. And they paid for my son to go to college at South Georgia Technical College to learn to become one of their heavy equipment diesel mechanics. And so he graduated in May. He's been doing that for the last, 6 months or so. And just last night we found out he got a job in their sales department. So, he's good with people. He can talk to people, even though, like she said, sometimes your introverts can be those outgoing people for a short period of time. He's my kid that even to this day, when he's working in the shop at Caterpillar, and for the most part, he's working by himself, he's still interacting with people. He comes home, grabs a snack, and goes to his room. He needs that downtime. He needs that alone time because by nature, he's an introvert. So you've got so many options with homeschooling, and you can gear it toward what works for you, your kids' learning needs, their giftedness, their strengths, their weaknesses, all of that. So, okay, you can do it. That's my journey. FPEA has already been mentioned. That's the convention that Jen was talking about, but they also have tons of resources on that website. Free things, articles, blogs that you can check out. The main thing you need to know on this slide is that a child turning 6 before February 1st of a particular school year is subject to compulsory education. So you don't have to send in that letter of intent to homeschool until your child is turning 6 by February 1st of that school year. So beginning and ending of school year kind of varies, right? Some schools start in early August, some start in mid-August, but you get the gist. Kind of that school year, August-ish to May-ish, that's when you have to send in your letter of intent. These are your legal responsibilities. You have to send in a notice of intent to your district within 30 days of beginning your homeschool. That's not so big if you're starting from the beginning, that's not such a big deal. But if you pull your child out of a building school, you have 30 days basically to send in that letter of intent. All the counties have a letter of intent on their education website. Polk, Pasco, Hillsborough, they all do. I don't have a problem with those. To me, it's not a big deal, but some people are very particular about they don't want the government or any of the school in any more of their business than they need to be. And so in parentheses there, the only thing you legally have to provide the school system is the child's name or children, if you're doing more than one, their date of birth, your address, and has the parent's signature. So you can type it up on a Word document if you want. If you don't want to fill out, for example, I just looked at the Hillsborough County one, which has changed in the last year, and they ask for the student's student number. So if you were in school, you would have a student number. You're not legally required to provide that. It had, I don't know, some other information that really wasn't necessary. It's up to you. I mean, they have pre-made forms that you can print, and you could just leave some things blank, but those are the 4 things that are required. The second thing that's required of you is to maintain a portfolio of records, which has to include your educational log and samples of your work. Now, an educational log can be something as simple as those double spread calendars that you get with the big blocks. You can get them at Walmart, Target, Staples. You can print them free on different websites. What I would do, it varies depending on how old your kids are. As your kids get older, they're gonna be on different levels. When your kids are younger, like elementary, maybe early middle school, a lot of times you can homeschool your kids pretty much the same, like Jen said, except math. Everybody doing the same thing. You're reading history out loud. You're reading science out loud. Everybody's talking about it, doing different hands-on activities together. So in that case, I had a planner. I did get mine at the teacher store when there used to be a teacher store over here, but you can order them online. And you don't have to write down lesson plans. Lesson plans are not legally required in the state of Florida, but you need a log. So example, Monday, math, pages 3 to 5, history, pages 27 and to 29, science, and so on. As my kids got older, if I could fit it in the squares, I color coded, their math. Like my daughter was pink, and my one son was green, and one was orange. And then the other subjects we were all doing together. As they got older, I did have a separate calendar for each of them because they were beginning to kind of spread out. And, when my oldest hit high school, we weren't all doing the same thing anymore. And then with my youngest, with his learning disabilities and reading challenges, I just needed to separate that all out. So that's what your log is. Well, you can write it on a piece of notebook paper every day. Some of you are great with Excel spreadsheets. You might come up with some fancy, all these blocks and titles and everything divided out, whatever works for you. You just have to have some record. Since we don't turn in attendance in the state of Florida, that's not required, it's not part of the homeschool law. If you were audited, which I have never seen in all the years I've been doing this, I've never seen anyone audited, but if you were, you have to provide your portfolio for inspection within 15 days of the written notice that you would get from the superintendent. Again, I've never seen that, and I do probably 300 or 400 evaluations a year, and I've never seen that. So the educational log is just kind of a record of what you're doing every day, and then samples. Now, let me say this. I do have families that don't want to rip pages out of their workbooks or pull pages out of their kids' binders. And so they bring me, every kid walks in, it's so cute with the evaluations, every kid walks in with their own little rubber tub, you know. Johnny's got 5th grade, Jose's got, 6th grade, and I flip through it. I just fan through all of it. The big thing is date your work. Have the kids put the date on their work, because the Florida law says a child shall make progress commensurate with their ability, equal to their ability. So 2 things are embedded in that. 1, I have to trust you the first time I do an evaluation for what your child's ability is. Is this child gifted in math but working below grade level in reading and writing and social studies? I just take your word for that. You're fine. The other thing is progress. That's why I want you to date it, because then I can see, oh, they did this in August, and then in October, and then they did this handwriting in March. Wow, look, and I'll even tell the kids, look at this, look at your handwriting in August, and look at it in May. And they'll go, yeah, I'm doing a lot better. And I have moms and dads tell me all the time, I felt like we didn't do enough until I came in here and I watched you look through all their work and comment on it. It feels like a lot of times you lose time during the day. Somebody gets sick, you have to go out of town. Something came up, the chicken burned in the oven, whatever. I mean, there's all these delays, arguments among the kids, discipline. But you're probably getting more done than you realize. And it is good to see at the end of the year when you have to collect it all, or your evaluator goes through it, to see the growth and the progress that they've made.
I have a quick question on evaluation. Once you submit the portfolio, is it okay to include pictures?
Absolutely. I love pictures. I tell people, bring me samples of your work, whatever subjects you did, and I'm not going to pick that apart either. There were times when we did history for a whole year and no science, and then the next year we would do all science, and another year we might do both, along with our regular language arts stuff and math. So elementary especially is so flexible. We did tons of unit studies. So I want to see, bring me pictures of that garden you grew when you were studying botany. Bring pictures of that Lego contraption that they built. Bring pictures of their recital, etc. Their sports. I love to see those and comment on them.
Does there have to be time on every single day, or
No.
can you have skipped days?
You can have, it just happens, right? It's going to happen. That it's a good habit for kids to get into, to date their work, but it's going to happen that they're not going to have.
If you didn't do anything on Wednesday, you just have a blank.
Oh, no, I don't care about that. I don't even look personally. That's another thing when you choose your evaluator. I don't look at your log. To me, I don't care about your log. The government cares about your log. I don't care how many days you did school, or I want to see the work. I don't care if you did it all on Saturday and Friday and Tuesday. I care about progress commensurate with their ability. That's all that the law holds me to.
If they ask to see it, are they gonna be looking for something in on every day?
I don't know. I don't think so. Because they know that.
Never seen one.
They know how homeschooling works.
Okay.
It's not completely foreign to them. They have to deal with it all the time. There is a homeschool office that we deal with. So no, there's nothing in the law. No. The answer is no. There's nothing legally that they can hold you to that says You don't have to do a certain number of hours of work every week. You don't have to do a certain number of days of school every year. There's nothing in the law that says that. So your fourth yes.
I told my son I would start homeschooling like January 9th of this year. So does that mean forever our date is January 9th, or can I like somehow reset our date to be at the beginning?
Yes, I get that question all the time. At this point, your date is set at whenever you sent in your letter of intent. So if it was January, then your annual evaluation is due in January. It's 1 year from when you started. It's not a school year. It's not a calendar year. It's 1 year from the date you sent in your letter of intent. So what I've asked the county this question, and what they've told me, and they've told other parents is, so let's say your evaluation is due in January. You have to do your evaluation in January. They will not let you go beyond that 1 year date, or you'll get a letter saying you have 30 days to update it. If you don't do it in 30 days, that's when you're gonna get one of those letters that say, we need to see your, portfolio and your work. So you have to do it in January, and then if you want to do it again in, say, sometime in summer, May, June, July, August, so that becomes your cycle, you can do it again. So the drawback is you're paying an evaluator to do it 6 to 4 months apart, but for the future, then that gets you on a cycle of everybody is due at the end of a school year.
So would I do it like in July of this year?
Yeah,
and restart
you can do it
in
whenever
August
you
and
want.
Start new?
Yep.
Not gonna be on a regular?
Yep, you sure can, yes.
Just a quick question, I
Yeah.
was asking this in high school. How would we go about showing, in the portfolio, the electives that we choose?
You just put pictures in there, put your worksheets. Everybody has different electives.
Okay.
Just
Pictures
show me.
and-
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
I have a question. So we just moved here from North Carolina.
Mhm.
North Carolina homeschool laws are completely different
Yes.
than it is here. So I'm still under North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to remove them from North Carolina
Mhm.
and then resubmit a new letter of intent with the state of Florida.
It's with whatever county you live
Or-
in.
yeah.
I'm assuming you're all from Hillsborough County, but
Yeah.
I do evaluations from people from all over, as far down as Sarasota. So
Okay.
submit it with your county.
And then for testing for the kids, you would just submit a state test, or you don't even submit it, it's just for your records?
I'll get into evaluations in a minute.
Okay.
You don't have to do testing in Florida.
Okay.
No testing required. So, submit an annual evaluation for each child it says to the superintendent, you're basically gonna, I sign the form, I have them, your evaluator should have them. If not, check with your evaluator before you go to your evaluation, print it from the Hillsborough County website, and take it with you. There's a place for the certified teacher to put their Florida State Department of Education number. They sign it, they date it, and there's a box we check. The child has made progress commensurate with their ability, or the child has not. Only 2 times in probably 10 or 12 years of doing evaluations have I ever wanted to check has not, and I haven't done it because I don't know what trouble a parent would get in. I had just said to that parent, you haven't brought enough for me to do your evaluation. If you can go home and find some more work, I'll be happy to look through it. But I've just basically handed the form back to them. And again, twice out of hundreds of people in 10 or 12 years, most parents are doing more, and they're concerned, right? We feel that weight of responsibility of educating our children. So you can have that evaluation done by a Florida certified teacher. You can use standardized testing. I give the Iowa twice a year in May and June in this room. We set up tables and chairs, and I test up to 40 kids at a time. It takes 2 half days, and you get a big spreadsheet of results. Now, some parents are not interested in testing. Their kids have been tested to death, in the school system and they don't want it anymore. I get that, I totally get it. There are some benefits to testing. One, it's unfair to a kid to put them in the position of taking the SAT or the ACT when they've never taken a standardized test and they don't know how to deal with the time pressure. On the SAT, you have 30 seconds, if you divide it out, to answer an algebra problem. You have to know how to work under pressure. You have to know how to be able to focus with distractions. You know, the other kid that's shuffling their feet. You have to be able to focus, work under pressure, deal with time limits. So there are advantages and disadvantages. Some people test every other year. Some people test every year and they don't turn in their results to the county. So if you use standardized testing as your evaluation, you have to you have to get your evaluator to sign, and you have to send in those results. So I have parents that will do a portfolio review and also do testing with their kids just because they want to know, are we making progress in these different subjects? Yes, it costs more. It may not fit into your homeschool budget. You don't have to do that. It's totally optional. You can also use the PSAT, ACT, and SAT. You're required to preserve your child's portfolio for 2 years. Submit a letter of termination whenever you move or they graduate to finish up.
On the Iowa testing, you said, when is it that you do that?
May and June, and it's in that handout. Okay, support groups. Nationally, there's the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. Excellent, they have free stuff on their website as well. When I started homeschooling, we were worried if our kids were out playing, that someone was gonna turn us in. It's not like that today. I see kids all the time in Walmart, Publix. It's not quite the same, but Homeschool Legal Defense advocates on state levels, really internationally. They're working all over the world to preserve homeschool rights. And so that's a great organization to find resources, read some of their stuff, or to be a member of. Statewide, we have the Florida Parent Educators Association, which we've already talked about a lot. That's the one they do the big convention. Locally, obviously Tampa Bay Heat, a plethora of activities. If you go on their website at tampabayheat.org, there is more than you could participate in. Okay, these are some of the approaches to homeschooling. Jen touched on a few. Traditional, standard, scope, and sequence. I'm a black and white person. I like the box, okay? I don't need to work outside the box. I like to know what I'm supposed to be doing next, what my kids should be learning at a certain level. I had to learn to be flexible with that because all kids aren't wired the same and all kids aren't learning the same. But there was security for me in that. So I would say I took a more traditional route to homeschooling, maybe because I had been a teacher. I think also it just worked with my personality. Classical, that was classical conversations. There's groups all over town. You can be a part of classical conversations. Unit studies, we did tons of unit studies when my kids were little. If we were she gave a great example of, you know, the flower and the bee, and maybe then you could talk about the Oregon Trail and work in that part of history with, you know, some of the landscape and botany and the flowers and animals. You can do all kinds of things that way. And she talked about Charlotte Mason. I have more and more people that are going toward an unschooling or kind of an eclectic learning lifestyle. With that, I'm totally okay with that. I have several families that do what they would call unschooling. And is Jen still here? I don't know if she's the other Jen. She's a big proponent, the one that's been running the video. She's a big proponent of unschooling, and she would be a great resource if you're interested in more of an unschooling model. The thing is, you still have to document. Your evaluator has to be able to see that your kids have made progress commensurate to their ability. So my one family that I have that are unschoolers, they own multiple businesses. They do everything from event catering and decorating to balloon art and craft. They go to places and make, you know, the balloon animals and that sort of thing. And their kids are very hands-on in their business. So a lot of their math, yes, they're doing math out of a workbook, but a lot of their math is counting money, making accounts to balance. And they bring in account sheets or an event they did. Say they worked at the state fair, and they ran a booth. They just kind of show me that. One of the sons is really interested in being a pilot. So he's part of Civil Air Patrol. And he brings in all these pictures for me of different events Civil Air Patrol has done. The other one is interested in something, possibly Coast Guard. So he's in Sea Scouts, is that right?
Yeah.
A division of Boy Scouts, right? Okay, so he's part of Sea Scouts, and he brings in, you know, different things they've done, badges he's earned, projects he's working on. So that's a little bit more of your unschooling. And then delayed academics, I think we all just kind of work that in depending on our kids' needs, to work what's best. She talked about a lot of this. I'm not gonna go into that. Auditory, visual, or kinesthetic, learning styles. I think the big thing is take a deep breath and just put one foot in front of the other each day. And I will not lie to you, the first year is hard. You're trying to figure it out. I used to have, my husband comes from a big family, and we'd all get together, and my sister-in-laws were all, oh, have you read this book? Oh, have you read that? And I'm like, no, I just have read about biology and long division and 18th century, you know, whatever. So all of my information was reading what the kids needed to know. And don't forget to invest in the relationship. It really is more important than the academics, and that's what will pay off in the long run. It's so super cool to me that even though my kids are 25, 21, or 23 and 21, and they're all currently at home, because my oldest just moved back from Ocala because he's getting married in May. My daughter just graduated from nursing school, so they're all kind of about to fly the nest, but they're not quite there. And it's just super cool to see the texts flying back and forth in the family. And just in the last week, my youngest was like, Dad, I need to pick vision insurance. Should I pick this plan or this plan? And my daughter's like, yeah, Dad, I need to pick my 401k stuff. Do I max out my investment, or because I'm trying to save money to move out, should I go with not the full percent that they'll match, or should I, you know, and it's just, I don't know that that would have happened if all of their relationships weren't so close. And they're used to looking to mom and dad as their authority or their resource for information. And so I know that homeschooling has made a difference in our relationships. Okay, she talked a little bit about this as well. FPEA is a good resource. They've got a whole list of curriculum on their website. Rainbow Resources, that's an online catalog, and you can search by subject or box curriculum, you know, literature, finance. If you want your high schooler to learn some type of financial, have a financial class, you can search by every topic. Also, Christian book distributors, that's another good online catalog. Box curriculums that are popular, Abeka, BJU, The Good and the Beautiful, My Father's World, and this is not an exhaustive list. There's tons out there. I would warn you with Abeka and BJU, If you go online and you say, okay, I've got a second grader, I want BJU's second grade. They are gonna send you way more material in that second grade box than you could ever, you're just bringing school home. Your second grader is gonna be sitting at the table all day long doing all of those books. Every book that they send you is not necessary. Now, if your first year you wanna try that and see how it goes, fine, but I guarantee you, 2 or 3 months in, you're gonna be going, oh, we don't need health. Oh, we don't need safety. You just teach your kids health and safety throughout life, right? They put on their seatbelt, they brush their teeth. You tell them, look before you cross the street. You don't have to do a workbook on it. But it comes. If you pick a full grade curriculum, it comes with way more work than you're gonna wanna do. And you're gonna end up wasting money because you're gonna pull all those out. BJU, I think, has 5 books that come for their language art, just language arts, 5. They have a reading comprehension, a writing, a handwriting, grammar, and something else. But a lot of those things, like handwriting, you may not work on it every single day, but they've got enough pages to work on it every single day. And so if you don't finish all the pages, you feel like you haven't done enough work. So that's not necessary. So I still like Abeka and BJU. They have good, well done teacher's guides, you know, for you as the parent. But you don't have to do every subject. Someone's paging you. You don't have to do every subject. You could go to Abeka or BJU and just pick the parts that you want for that grade. Okay, math. My absolute favorite, hands down math, I have to tell you, is Saxon. So we started, I think Matthew C, I didn't even put it up there, she brought it up. Matthew C is wonderful for those tactile learners, those hands-on learners, those younger kindergarten, first, second, third graders. But as it gets older, I don't feel like it gives enough practice for kids to learn a concept, unless you have a kid who's just a natural math kid. So we tried everything. We did Matthew C, we tried teaching textbooks, we tried some other online things. And someone recommended Saxon to us, and I can't say my kids liked it. It's spiral learning. So let's say you learn a concept, carrying a number. Well, you will have then like 15 problems related to that lesson, and then 15 problems related to all the things, not all the things, but many of the things from the beginning of the book. So you're constantly being reminded of what you've learned. It's not just this, and then your kids learn what they need to learn, move on and forget it. It's spiral learning. It's constant review. I'll never forget, my youngest was like 8th or 9th grade. He was doing pre-algebra, and a long division math problem showed up in his Saxon homework. He was like, Mom, this is stupid. Why do I have to do this? I'm like, okay, do it. He could not remember. It took him like 20 seconds, because by then, you're using a calculator in math. Once you learn your math facts, you know, 7th, 8th grade and on, they don't have time for you to sit there and go, you're using a calculator because your equations are getting longer. The point isn't, do you know multiplication anymore? It's, can you balance this equation? So he had to think about it for a second. And then he got going and he was fine, but that's exactly why they do it, so that they remember. Singapore is good. Mr. D is an online math. Many people use it and are very happy, and they just keep expanding. This guy started just teaching online math classes, and they have almost every subject. They have clubs, they have all kinds of things. So Mr. D has really grown. Teaching textbooks is popular. It's not my favorite, I'll have to tell you. Kids learn how to cheat the system pretty easily. and not have to go back and fix their problems, the things they missed, or they, think you take like a pre-test, and if you do well enough on the pre-test, you can skip the lesson and move on. And I just think you have to be careful. Just keep an eye. If you choose teaching textbooks, make sure you're watching and making sure your kids are really learning. Oh, did I go past that too fast? Writing, she already mentioned IEW, hands down, love it for writing. Science, Apologia is popular, and you've got lots of choices for history and grammar. Teachers Pay Teachers is an excellent resource, especially if you like hands-on stuff. Lap books, like books that fold out in pages, and they've got everything printed. All you do is your kid cuts it out, glue sticks it on there, and it creates these nice, cool folders that maybe goes over the Civil War or Civil Rights Movement or something in biology. The library, don't forget about the library. One of the things that can be included in your log, your educational log, is a reading list. Well, the library prints out the ticket, okay, my time's up. The library prints out the ticket of what you checked out, and you can use that as your part of your reading list. Thrift books is used books that people are reselling. Various Facebook groups, and don't forget your field trips. We need to do evaluations, and I don't have time. I've covered some of it. I've told you when your anniversary date is. You can do a nationally normed test, Iowa. I give the PIAT, which is a one-on-one test. You can use like the SAT or the ACT. If your child has special needs and they've recently had a psychological evaluation, which is like determining their IQ and their learning disabilities, if it's current within the last year, you can use that as your evaluation. And that's it. So ask me questions before I absolutely have to go about evaluations in particular if you can.
Yeah. So what about, like my daughter was in Huntington, and you know how they give them that whole comprehensive test. Would something like that be okay?
I don't think the Huntington test is a nationally normed test, but I would ask them there. If it's a nationally normed test where what they do is they make up the test and then they give it to a broad range of students all over the US, and they compare, and that's how they determine their scoring levels. So just check and find out if it's a nationally normed test. Any other?
Yes, one question. Our daughter started in October, so when would be the right time for her assessment?
Hillsborough County, every county is a little bit different. Hillsborough County will accept your evaluation, the date of the evaluation 60 days before it's due. So that would still be too early if you were wanting to do like one of the Iowa testing groups. That wouldn't work for you, because that's May and June, July, August, September. But if you wanted to, say you guys end your school year in July, that would work. If you wanted to do your evaluation in July, August, well, it'd have to be beginning of August. So it can't be more than 60 days before it's due from your when your letter of intent was sent in. Yeah.
Where do you find the evaluators? At PEA? How do you find an evaluator?
Hillsborough County has a whole list of evaluators.
Okay.
And then you can just call them. I get calls all the time. Some people need something done really fast, like I forgot about my due date. I forgot my evaluation was due. If I can see them right away, I will, but sometimes I can't work them in right away. And so they just go down the list calling people. So that's it. Yeah.
So let's say one of the classes we decided, like government or history, we decided to take a little break from it because there's too many things going on, sports and whatever. And his evaluation is in July. If we resume government or history again in May, when we free up on a lot of activities, will that affect his evaluation if he hasn't completed it?
Not
But
for
he
me.
has things-
Not for me, because obviously you're gonna bring me other things to look at, right? Those are the kinds of questions you need to ask an evaluator, whoever's doing your evaluation. If you're getting Aunt Susie, who's a public school teacher that thinks you need to have this, and this, that your child should be doing, and they're gonna say, oh, you haven't done what you need to do, I'm not signing this form. That's not what the law in Florida requires. It's progress commensurate with their ability. It doesn't mention subjects, it doesn't mention number of days of school, months, nothing. Yes.
So that's a good point that you brought up. So when because you keep using the phrase commensurate with their ability. So I just pulled my daughter out, she's 7th grade, I just pulled her out of school, last week. So February 6th is when I sent the intent in. One, I guess it takes a while for the school to catch up, cause they're still marking her absent every
Yeah.
day. But I was told, don't worry about it,
Yeah,
because
don't.
all that
It'll
matters
catch
is
up.
my intent date.
Right.
So she's tested with all of these tests that she's had, she's basically testing at a 4th and 5th grade level.
Uh-huh.
She does have learning disabilities,
Yeah.
and she wasn't getting the attention and the care that she needs.
Right.
So my intent was to kinda just go back, and what I really wanna work on is the writing and the
Yeah.
grammar and stuff, and just really focus on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say go for it. Homeschooling is the perfect opportunity. I tell parents that all the time that pull their kids out later versus those of you that are starting from the beginning, for whatever reason, they've pulled their kids out, a variety of reasons. I tell them, stop, slow down, and fill in the holes. Take a full school year to just fill in the holes. And then you just communicate that to your evaluator. Again, that's important. That's why it's important that you pick the right evaluator. Someone who understands homeschooling and is on board with your vision. Anything else? Okay. Let me see if you guys need a break or one more. Okay, you guys can take a break. Thank you. So
Excuse me, ma'am.
Kendra Westra, I think it's on there somewhere. Yeah. Yes. My email's right there, Westra Fab 5.
Ms. Kendra, I know you're finished.